Hello and welcome back to the Farm RPG podcast. I'm your host, Belogan. In this episode, we kick off with a staff spotlight with Saph. After that, we have a discussion with Auggie about roadmap and development of the game. And we wrap up with a deep dive discussion about the Slaughterhouse with Coderanger. It is time for another staff spotlight, and with me today is Saph.
Yay, me.
I'm assuming I'm saying that correctly?
Yes.
All right, excellent. So we have a questionnaire of questions we go over in the staff spotlights. I did tweak this a little bit due to some feedback I had from previous interviewees, just in the last couple of questions here to make it a little bit clear.
I'll try to improv.
Start off with the easy one here, and I sent you the correct list, so you have that. So first question is, how did you learn about Farm RPG, and how long have you been playing?
Well, I've always liked RPGs and like simulation kind of games. And just by like the titles and the suggestions by Apple, they were like, do you mean idle games? And I was like, yes, this is what I play. So I started looking into idle games, and then somehow that got into Reddit and incremental games. And it was like finding myself in the games that I play. I'm like, yes, this is what I play. This is the kind of game. Because when you type RPG into iOS, it just into the App Store, it just doesn't show these kind of games. So I was just looking for like, what are the best incremental games? There were like 3 others, and then a farm RPG. And I'm thinking like Terraria and farming. And I was like, this isn't going to be any good. So I downloaded it, had it there for like a week or 2 weeks, and then went through the other 3 games. Like, no, not this one, not this one, not this one. And then finally got to this one, and I was like, let me start playing. So then I just started, like, I thought it was going to be more of a solo play. So I made first, even my farm name was like kind of obscene. And then I noticed the chat button, and I was like, what is this chat button? And then I started talking, and then I realized, oh my God, it's all public. Change the pet names, change everything fast. And then it just went from there. The community was very welcoming. And I mean, I'd say that it isn't even like 50% about the game. It's just the whole community and the chat experience is what the game is really about.
Yeah, I noticed there were some notes on your player profile about animal names.
Yeah. And those were like the good ones. Those are, I got contacted by a mod, and they were like, your names are very bad. And I was like, oh my God, this is the edited version. I'll change it right now. And then I got a message by another mod going like, your names need to change. And I was like, oh, but I thought another mod, let me change it right now. And then finally I just went like, no, let me just make it very clean. But it was way worse before, because I thought this was like a solo game. No one would ever see what I'm doing. And then I realized it was all out in the open.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think we probably run into quite a few players that have that experience up front. They think it's a solo player game, and then it takes them a while to discover there even is a chat.
Yeah,
everything is public and shared.
Yeah, it was. I've settled down since then. And whenever I talk, now that I am a mod, whenever I talk to people and I have to tell them, like, change your pet names, please. I always go with like, and I know how you feel, because I also didn't realize at first that this was everywhere. I've been there, so I know how it feels.
I think some of the mods that have been there since the start, that came from Firestream's previous games, may have taken that for granted a little bit.
Yeah, I even...
user experience is going to be the same for everyone.
Do not think it's a coincidence that Code of Conduct 16, if a mod asks you to change the pet names, was done almost exactly after I got the message about mine. So I'm always like, I think it's because of me.
It could be. There are several things in the Code of Conduct that are input because of things that various players or staff have done throughout the history of the game.
There was, back when I first started, it was like Code of Conduct added at something like 927, like 3 rules were added then. And I was like, whoa, what happened that day?
I don't remember specifically what happened that day.
But I was like, yeah, that must have been a wild day.
Been quite a few. All right. Well, if we gave you one sentence and one sentence only to describe what Farm RPG is, what would be your sentence?
The sentence would have been so much easier. I thought it would have been a word. But I don't know. I think it's a welcoming community. That would be, I know it's cliche and it's cheesy, but that's, because if I try to tell someone to play this game and I go like, I play this game and it's very nice, and I'm trying to get them to play it, if I say, it's a farming simulation, they're going to go like, is this Farmville all over again?
Mm-hmm.
If I say like it's a clicker, they're like, am I clicking a cookie? It doesn't really show you why this game kind of draws you in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a lot more about the community and all the players and everything that's created inside.
So it's a community then is your sentence.
Yeah, welcoming community, I would say.
That's definitely a big part of it. And I think that it's played in just about everybody's definition so far in one way or another.
Can't wait to see everyone else's.
All right, next, where did your Farm RPG username come from?
It's funny now, but we were like in middle school, me and a group of friends, and we were starting like anime club, and we were like, we should have nicknames, and we each picked a nickname from our birthstone. And I'm Sapphire, so yeah, I was Saph, and we have like a Gary from Garnet, we have a Perry from Peridot, and we have like a Z and a Z because one's Canadian, and they both had Topaz. So we each, they're still the ones that I play like Dungeons and Dragons with sometimes, and we still hang out. And then it just became my nickname through everything in my teen years, high school years, college years. So much so that I reply to Saph as much as I do to my name.
I was going to guess it came from Pokemon. Now I'm not sure which one's more nerdy. Gemstones for the Pokemon.
I know, and then it's also like everyone goes like, is this short for Sapphire or something? Like jokingly, and I'm like, yes, it is. And then I have gotten the question like, why do you have a stripper name? I was like, it's we were kids, okay? It was cool then. And then the funny thing is that my birthday is December. It's not even the December birthstone, but back then, it was like a magazine cutout, and we read it all wrong. So it's not even my right stone, but it's stuck.
The name stuck even if the meaning is completely wrong. Interpretation. I love that.
Yep. And at least, it's not Sapphire. I was like, let's go down with Saph. So at least people think it's like, it's Saph. But at first we were like calling each other like the Stones, and me, a guy, and Sapphire. It was kind of funny.
Yep. I would have totally thought Pokemon revisions.
And the other people ended up better because, Gary, like no one thinks anything. They don't think like, oh, is that short for Garnet? Perry, but mine was just Saph. Yes.
Easy one to spot.
Yep.
In addition to Farm RPG, and you've mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, which is also near and dear to my heart, but what other kinds of games do you like to play?
Well, mobile games, I'm very picky. I like games that are incremental. I've always been like, World of Warcraft player. Love leveling up, get to end game, and then I'm bored. I like the aspect of there's like an old Flash Newsgrounds game, Unlock It, and it was like just unlocking new stuff as you level up. So I like incremental games. But so I played Dawn of Crafting is one of my favorite ones in iOS, but then it was abandoned. Night of the Full Moon, those rogue style games, but it's just so tough because it's hard to find a game that's not completely like pay to play, or you have to get this building for $4 and that's the only way, or watch a billion ads. So even when I mentioned prior that I had the 4 games that I got, and it was like I tried one, and then it's like, wait, 8 hours for this, or pay 3 crystals and you can do it in 2 minutes. And then I was like, nope. And I'm okay with pay. Like Night of the Full Moon, I paid for all the expansion packs. I became beta in Farm RPG. It's just when the game is obviously like you can't do anything without it, it annoys me. Outside of mobile, Dungeons and Dragons, love it. It's fun as heck. I'm watching like the Legend of Vox Machina right now, which is pretty cool. Yu-Gi-Oh, playing cards, and of course I am an admin on a Pokemon Go group, so I play that a lot. I'm literally was just playing Pokemon Legend of Arceus. I've always been like a Pokemon because that's kind of like an incremental RPG game. Slowly level up, you get attacks and everything. So those are really what I play, like Pokemon, and then nerdy stuff. Basically anything but shooters. Don't like those.
No first-person shooters. Yeah, I struggle with the Twitch games as well.
Yeah, I'm not a player versus player person. Like even PvP in WoW, World of Warcraft, I was just always sort of like, I don't know. It just doesn't draw me. Or RuneScape. RuneScape was like my middle school years. And again, like when they went into PvP, I'm like, nope.
All right, awesome. So now we're going to get to the questions we tweaked a little bit. And the next one is, what is one thing you wish the Farm RPG community knew?
As a mod, I would just say, I wish they knew how much work goes on behind the scenes, because when I was a player only like 2 weeks ago, it's like, oh, everything's fine and dandy and nothing ever happens. And then you go and you see it from behind. I'm like, oh, they're doing a lot of work. So I wish they knew exactly how much work goes into it. As a player, I hope that everyone always knows to ask, because the community, again, is so nice. If you need an item, if you need a question, if you need help, ask, and don't feel like you're imposing on asking.
So long as you've read the quest, it's okay to ask, right?
If Force Path hears this, I totally read all the quests all the time. I never ignore it at all. Yep.
I struggled to even read the quests I wrote, to be honest.
Some of them I did go back because people were like, oh, that one was funny. And I was like, oh, was it? And I'm like, there was 99 parts of this. You read every single one? And some of them I just, I have a hate relationship with, oh God, what's her name? Beatrix. Mm-hmm. I just read her out of spite because, ever since I was a small little lowbie making iron cups, trying to make silver, and they're like, bring me more iron cups, plebs. We're having a party. And then every single time she's like, I'm so hurt. Can you please make some tea out of gold leaves for me? Oh, I'm feeling famished. Can you bring me some steaks? I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with this? So some of them I read out of spite, but some of them I just skip. I'm like, I just want to get to the end. But yeah, I'm not a fan of some of the NPCs. I have a love-hate relationship with them.
Well, that's a good sign when you like some and hate some of the elements you're interacting with.
Like Buddy, everyone was like, oh, Buddy's so awesome, Buddy's so cool. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's horrible. And then I realized, I didn't have the Buddy Stone, and I started right before the Halloween event. Mm-hmm. And every time I saw Buddy, he took stamina from me.
Yep.
So I was conditioned to hate him, while everyone else who had started before was like, this is awesome. Buddy replenished my stamina.
It took a long time till he did that. He used to just be terrifying up front with no redeeming qualities.
That's why I created Foe. That's my true buddy.
All right. And our last question is, tell us an interesting fact about yourself.
Well, I'm half Brazilian, half German. And I was raised in the US. My German side is half Polish, half Jewish, and my Brazilian side is half Portuguese, half Italian. So I'm a big mutt. I'm a mix of a lot of places.
Sounds like a proper American, a mix of a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And it's funny because in every family picture, I'm like the Waldo in the picture that doesn't fit exactly. Mm-hmm. I'll be like my Brazilian side. My grandmother is literally, African. And then I'm like pasty white German. So whenever I'm on that side of the family, it's like, oh, it's the white dot over there. And then whenever I'm on my Italian side, it's like there's the blonde beard. And then it's like I never fit anywhere with it. But it was a cool growing up, living with all these different sort of countries and foods and places.
A lot of cultural influences, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, like English is my third language. Portuguese is my main language.
How my wife is. She speaks Czech as her first language, Slovak as her second, grew up also speaking Polish and German, and now she speaks English.
Yep. That's my something really interesting, or I'll make it a little bit short. So my background, my grandfather was in the Nazi army when it was first started. My grandmother is Jewish. And when it was first starting, they fled to Brazil because he saw how bad it was going to get. Mm-hmm. He tried to tell her village, like, it's going to go bad. And everyone just called her, then said she was crazy. And then when the war ended and they tried to go back, there was no one left in her village at all. Mm-hmm. So that's how that side of me got back to Brazil. But then again, like my grandma's side she's Jewish, Czech. Mm-hmm. And then my grandfather is German, Polish. And then like I'm like a circle of the world, pyramid of the world. of all the DNAs in me.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you for taking a few moments to come share the staff spotlight and let the community get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the game's development cycle. As moderators, we get a little bit different view of that than the player base does. Just from your experience, how do you see the development cycle work? Like, what's the flow of something from concoction to implementation in the game?
Well, it kind of depends. So, we get told when something is going in alpha, and as staff, we are allowed to check alpha, just for knowledge reasons and to give feedback because, as staff, we're players that Firestream trusts to be honest and straight up, which I mean, I am all the time. But other times he'll just drop an update and say, hey, here's this. Like, I think for like when he added raptors to the game, I think we had like a 3-minute heads up before he skipped alpha, he skipped beta and just threw it in the game. So that was fun. And
it was completely bug free, right?
I mean, yeah, he stated that same night that the raptor eggs are the rarest drop in the entire game. So for a while, that the library page was just, because I asked him, what do raptors do? What are they for? And I threw it in a library page. Mm-hmm. And it was just very, very rushed sentence like, raptor bring kebabs and antlers, yay. And then I put his actual quote in the page so that people would stop saying, I'm not getting any. Yeah, me neither. And then eventually, I think some staff were some of the first to get one, but it wasn't just staff, but people always think that we have some deep insider knowledge where, no, we actually play the game also.
9 times out of 10, we don't know. I will say that as staff, we do have a little bit more of a direct line to Firestream, who solely develops the game. And so sometimes we'll bounce ideas off him or he'll come and ask us to look at things. That happened a lot earlier in the game, I think, with my involvement with kind of making suggestions on pig implementations and things like that. But
I do that too. If I see something and it looks like unbalanced or kind of wonky, I'll mention it. And sometimes he's like, oh yeah, you're kind of right on that. And then other times, it doesn't change, but it's his game and I am not always right. But yeah, no, overall, like, there have been quite a few things that I've suggested that have happened. Like, I suggested the perk point for item mastery. And, I kind of explained it in a way that was like, if you're a master of that item, that's a skill. And he was like, yeah, you're right. And then I think another thing pretty recently was adding the silver reward to Grand Mastery, because before it was just, the gold and the sell price. I don't think I was the only one with that idea, but, I presented it to him and I was like, hey, 100,000 is a lot. And, because I talked to a lot of the late game players and, especially the item mastery players. And, we kind of, we chit chat about things that, they wish were different or that could be tweaked to be more optimal for everybody. And the storehouse storage, I don't know if it was my idea, but I definitely did pitch it to Firestream. And it's so awesome. It's so good. I love having a silver sink to up my inventory.
Yeah, it's one of my most favorite, definitely, implementations in the game. So if you're a player of Farm RPG and you have this idea, it's the most awesome idea that'll make this the best game ever, how do you get that to Firestream?
So there is a link, and, if you just go into chat and type it in chat, you can just type like open bracket feedback, close bracket, and it'll bring up the feedback link. It's a website called Improve Loop, and he does actually check it. And he does implement some of the things. Like I remember somebody really, really wanted a pet rock. And they put it in feedback and they told everybody, hey, go vote for my idea. And like not even a week later, Firestream put a pet rock in the game. So like it is a, obviously some ideas are repeated. Some ideas are, are not realistic for this time and place of where the game is at or what Firestream wants to do with the game. But like I know mushroom spores are another one that, people wanted another way to get mushrooms and he gave it to us because it was very highly requested. So it works.
I'm going to throw out a note on that as well. If you go to Improve Loop, you will see there is a huge amount of content on there. And so don't get discouraged just because your idea that's the best ever gets looked over. There's literally so much content given every single day that there's no way that, even a day's worth of stuff really could be implemented if it was appropriate.
Yeah. And if you're ever, if you ever have a question about, hey, do you think my idea is good enough to even put on there? You can always message one of us and ask. Like we don't bite. I don't.
We might call you names.
Well,
what's the worst that could happen? I'm going to email you back or PM you back and say, that is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. What are you thinking? Right? That's the worst that can happen.
I mean, if Bell does that, I would just give him a chat ban. So for being,
and you would,
for being
and it's happened.
Yeah. I feel like staff chat ban other staff astronomically more than we actually like chat ban players. Like it happens so often. Let me see. Who's online? Who can I chat ban?
And boom. Yep. There it goes.
Let me open staff chat. The only person that we can't chat ban is Firestream. I think Force Path actually figured out a way around that somehow. He just he hacked the system. Not really, but he did something and figured out how to chat ban him. Wish Ryber.
Not supposed to.
I don't see Ryber in chat. I'm just gonna.
I think I know how he did that, but I'm not going to get into it.
I also think that I know how he did that, but I'm also not going to get into it. I'm gonna chat ban FFFF. Let's see.
All right.
Permanent chat ban.
While you're doing that, back on the development cycle, there's this thing called a roadmap that's put up. How much confidence or faith should we put into that roadmap and hold on to that? That's exactly what's going to happen.
It's just like a vague idea. It's what he wants to happen. It's not everything that he wants to happen, but it's the things that he wants to advertise that he is working on or that he hopes to see in the game. Back, in 2021, he had it listed out month by month, which, that put a lot of pressure on him. Things happen, the game grows, we run into little roadblocks or big roadblocks, and not everything was able to be completed month by month, which can be really stressful for him and frustrating as for players, which, I totally understand from both sides. So this year he's got it in quarters. But if he starts working on something and, it's not working out, or it doesn't really, it's not really having a positive impact on the game, he may scrap it. Like I remember, when he added in the, for like the auto crafters back whenever that was, like November or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then he added in apple cider originally. It was causing a lot of game lag, like a lot. And it took him like a couple weeks to hunt down exactly what the issue was. And to resolve it, he had to completely remove the auto crafters. So now, crafting is awesome now. But, that impacted, I think it was called Glassworks or Craftworks, was something that was on the roadmap. And it was on there for a while, but because of the change to crafting, it got like a strike through, it got removed, which makes sense. So I'm thinking another one was the trade rep system. It just, it was really cool in concept, but the implementation of it I don't think would be conductive. And I think, and he kind of said the same thing, like it's not really going to add anything one way or the other. Because we didn't want it to be something where players can give you points, because then the whole chat would just be, hey, give me points. Or people making alternate accounts to give themselves points, which, that would just get them, they would get a consequence for the alternate accounts and for spamming chat.
I love the disclaimer on there. It says, please remember that the possible updates listed below are not guaranteed to happen in the order presented and could be canceled or revised at any time. I think my experience has been with Firestream and his updates is what he's putting on the roadmap are ideas that he'd like to do. And then when he sits down to start coding, it's whatever comes out and comes to his mind at that point in time. And it could be something from the roadmap. It could be something he just dreamed up of. It's basically his hobby, and he's going to, code it the way he wants as he goes along.
Yeah. And I do like that when he adds things that are not originally in the roadmap, that he puts them in, like he adds them into the roadmap. Like, I don't think Wheel of Borgin was in the roadmap until it was in beta. But he
showed up one day.
Yeah, well, because the wheel itself, we're not going to talk about alpha too much, but the wheel itself was in alpha for a while just to test the functionality of it. It didn't do anything. It just spin the wheel. Wheel spins. You spun the wheel. And then, the wheel is definitely one of my favorite new things that I can do in the game. But it's now on the roadmap. That's complete.
Showed up after the fact. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time to come and answer a bunch of grueling questions and talk with us today, Auggie. And hopefully we'll have you on again sometime.
Sure, anytime. Anytime that's that I can be on, though, because your girl's busy.
Yeah, we won't ask you to come in the middle of the school day.
I mean, you can ask, but you already know the answer.
We won't expect it. Yeah.
Maybe I can get my kids. I can get my kids to come on.
That could be fun.
No, I actually I revoke that sentence immediately after I said it.
Back it up. Delete it.
Blooper reel.
All right. Thanks again. All right. Next, we're going to jump into the mechanical deep dive. And I don't know if we should have some funky audio intro for this section or not, but mechanical deep dive, we're going to dig into what goes on behind the numbers and how various systems in farm RPG work. And we're going to start with the Slaughterhouse and animals. So in farm RPG, on your farm, you've got the ability to build a couple types of buildings or expansions that house animals, specifically with a chicken coop, a cow pasture, and a pig pen. And coderanger, why don't you tell us a little bit about these animals and what they do for us on our farm?
Yeah, so chickens are the first one that most people will unlock. They are the simplest and the cheapest. All three types, you can have 250 max. Chickens, you get 1 feather per day, and you get their level in eggs per day. So if you have 5 level 10 chickens, you're going to get 5 feathers and 10 eggs every day. Eggs currently aren't used for a whole lot. There's a couple of help requests that need them. But feathers are super useful, especially right now as we sort of finish out the tail end of the Valentine's Day event. A lot of people are very interested in feathers as a crafting material all of a sudden. But if you're chasing masteries, you're going to need a lot of feathers. So 250 a day is real handy. But beyond that, chickens, you usually buy the whole 250. It costs about $1.5 million silver to get all of them, and then they just kind of sit there and level up. You pet them every day. Petting 250 chickens seems like it's probably going to take a lot of time, but it's a video game, so we accept this abstraction. Cows and pigs are a little bit more interesting, though. Cows are unlocked first. Again, you can buy up to 250 of them. They level up a lot slower, but when they hit level 5 and above, I know you've covered this in a lot of your earlier videos, so I'll just sort of speed through this. You can turn them into leather and steaks. So steaks sell for money at the steak market. Leather, you can either sell it or use it. It's an ingredient in a lot of high-level crafting recipes. And pigs, similarly, when they hit level 5, you can turn them into bacon. And for both cows and pigs, the amount that you get when you slaughter them is relative to their level. So higher level, more item results. But higher level also takes more time to achieve. So This, of course, raises the immediate question of when should I send them to the slaughterhouse for optimal results?
Exactly.
This is usually about 5 minutes after people unlock the cow pasture. They are asking this question in the help chat.
Want some beef? I want some bacon. Yeah. When do we send them off? What is the best time?
Yeah, well, so Logan and I worked together a couple weeks ago and came up with some new recommendations. So for we posted the with all the perks onto the Slaughterhouse page on the in-game library. So if you ever need a reminder, definitely check that out. But we can go a little bit more into detail here. So if you have the Animal Lover perk, that's the perk that makes your animals level up a little bit faster, then for cows, if I remember correctly, it's levels, I think it's level 8 for cows and level 8 for pigs. Is that correct?
I'm pulling up the library page. I think so.
No, level.
I forget.
Yeah, level 8 for cows, level 7 for pigs. If you do not have the perk, then things get a little bit fuzzier. For cows, you still want level 8, but for pigs, you can really pick, like, it is technically optimal without the Animal Lover perk at level 6, but levels 6, 7, and 8 are extremely close, like within 10,000 silver out of 1 million. So within 1%.
Yeah, pretty close on those. So what other things would you maybe want to consider when picking when to slaughter your animals?
Yeah, so the two big factors are how much inventory space do you have? Because if you send too many, if you send 250 pigs to the slaughterhouse, yeah, that'll generate hundreds and hundreds of bacon, but you probably don't have an inventory big enough for that. And it's all just going to disappear into the void on game rollover. So you don't ever want to slaughter more than you have inventory space for. But slaughtering more per day is better because of the way the prices on buying new cows and pigs work. It's cheap. You get a cheaper average price if you send more per day. So the balance you want to find is basically get them to the correct level and then send as many as you can as will fit in your inventory when you're done.
It just reminded me I did not send pigs off to the slaughterhouse today, and I need to do that on my game before they start getting too old and needing more feed.
Cows, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, because you're bringing this up. So cows, you only have to pet them every day. It's just you go in, you either do them all one by one, or if you have the farm supply perk, you get a single button to pet them all. So that doesn't, like, there's no ongoing cost. Once you've purchased a cow, that's as much as it will ever cost. You're good. If you wanted to sort of leave them there, if you don't need any steaks or leather, it's going to be less optimal for profit. But if you just don't have the time to play, don't worry about it. Pigs are a little bit different because the feed is an item. You can't just pet them. You have to actually give them an item, one unit of feed per pig. So if you got 250 pigs, you need 250 units of feed. The feed math is a little bit complicated. We both kind of just ignored it. Most high-level players are going to get most of their feed, at least in my experience, from pets. So the hedgehog pet brings broccoli, and 1 unit of broccoli becomes, I think, 24 units of feed. Basically, the way the math works out, 1 level 4 or above hedgehog pet gives you enough feed every day for 250 pigs. So there's a little bit of opportunity cost because you could be selling that broccoli instead, but it's not as big a cost. You're not farming the crops yourself. If you are farming the crops yourself, you haven't yet unlocked the hedgehog pet. It does, I believe, cost 111 million to get it to level 4. Then you do have to sort of consider what you're going to be growing to turn into feed. All feed producing, you need the feed mill build. You need the feed mill building upgrade, and then you need a crop to put in it. All crops give their grow time in hours divided by 2 feed, assuming they take 2 hours or longer. And that's base grow time, so not counting your perks. So another common question that I get is which crop is best for feed? And if you're growing them, the answer is usually the longest one, because you don't have to futz with it as much. They're all actually the same.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think if you do the analysis for the cost for seeds, I think when I went through it, cabbage ends up being the lowest, and it's not a huge difference per feed cost, but you make a good point that you've got to be on top of it because it grows fairly quickly.
Yeah, especially if you've got some grow time perks. I think with the 80% reduction, cabbage is something like 23 minutes or something like that. And if you're not going to check the game every 23 minutes, you're at work or something, then even if it costs more silver, if you've got crops ready to harvest, it doesn't matter if you had a more optimal silver cost, you still are not currently growing anything. So you got to balance those two out, or just get a hedgehog.
Get the hedgehog. That's the way to do it, and give an appropriate name as well. The one thing that I think is kind of interesting, if we look at the history of the animals, is that cap of 250 on there. And I think you said you started playing November, right, when Raptors dropped. So you probably weren't around prior to that cap. So when the game first launched back in April and May, we had chickens and cows, and there actually wasn't a cap on how many you could have. So you could buy as many as you wanted, but the other implication and why it was very different, we didn't have the slaughterhouse, but you also didn't have a cap on bank interest. And so what we really ended up doing was figuring out, all right, is it better to throw my money into cows and chickens to get eggs and milk, or throw it in the bank and get interest? So that was kind of a very different state of the game.
Yep.
Now the caps.
Now eggs and milk, I don't even bother selling them personally. Like it's not worth the extra clicks every day to bother with it compared to the value of the steaks you get out of them.
Yeah. I think I have them unlocked, so they get sold when I sell all in the morning.
I live in fear that Firestream is, going to add a quest in the middle of the day that needs 1,000 milk or something, because that's totally the kind of thing he would do. And then I'll have to wait a whole nother day. That would just be intolerable.
Well, if Firestream wrote it, they're usually the event quests that are really easy. We've got some other people working on the quests that generally are very grindy.
Fair.
And it's funny how those change as well. I did some of the early quests, like the Lawrence advice and the first one with Buddy and that. And at one time I made a quest that needed more than 200 items, and oh boy, community got mad at me early on. All right, well, that has been a really good overview of the Slaughterhouse and animals. Thank you for your input on that. It's always nice to hear other people's take on it and get their analysis. I do a fair amount, have in the past, but game changes, things changes, and I'm not always the most up-to-date expert on some of these items.
Yeah, thank you for having me.